Welcome to the Your Entrepreneurship School podcast, or as I like to call it, the Yes Podcast. My name is Britta Moreta. I'm an executive business consultant for women who dream of living wildly and wealthy abroad. The Yes Podcast is for women who are ready to build a business that funds her dream life abroad so she can expand her business, bank account, and brilliance without settling for a life that tames her wildness. The Yes Podcast is sponsored by Bridal Babes Yoga, a luxe start to your celebration. Ready to elevate your bachelorette or hen-do weekend with something truly unforgettable? My Bridal Babes Yoga experiences are crafted with intention, movement, and connection because you deserve more than just the usual. Immerse yourself in a soulful, joy-filled session designed exclusively for you and your crew. Whether you crave a restorative morning flow, a themed class with playful energy, or a heart-centered practice to set powerful intentions for this next chapter, we'll curate a dreamy experience that feels as radiant and one-of-a-kind as your love story. What to expect? Thoughtfully curated playlist, essential oil-infused head massage, a pause to breathe, move, laugh, and connect with the optional add-ons of tarot card reading, astrology chart reading, and friendship bracelet making. This isn't just a yoga class. It's a radiant start to your weekend, an unforgettable moment of luxurious relaxation and joy before the confetti. Let's make magic for your bridal crew. To book a Bridal Babes yoga class, you can go to brittamoreta.com/bridal-babes-yoga or find our link in the show notes. Welcome to the Yes Podcast, Mark and Lana. You are the owners of the Blisstopia Retreat Center in Arizona. I am so excited you are here. We have known each other for about a year and a half as we've had opportunities to work together online. And before we dive into this episode where we are going to talk about everything from owning a retreat center to hosting retreats to hosting yoga teacher trainings and other types of certifications, I would love for you to introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, what you do, and also, because this is the Yes Podcast, what are you saying yes to today?
Hi, Britta. Thanks for having us. I'm Mark, and this is Lana, my wife. Yes, we own and operate Blisstopia Retreats in Peoria, Arizona, which is a northwest suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. We have been operating for about 4 years now, and we just finished hosting our 60th retreat at the retreat center. So what else did you want to know?
What are you
I'm
guys
Lana.
saying yes to? What are
I'm
you saying
Lana.
yes to today? Hi, Lana.
Yes.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Lana. I'm one of the trustees of Blisstopia Retreat. We are a 508c1a, and so we are the landholders of this property and this beautiful high-frequency space. We are hosts and facilitators, but we also rent out the property. And I'm saying yes to Britta always, pretty much, because Britta, I think you are pretty darn amazing, and it's hard to say no to you because you bring so much ambition, excitement, energy, ideas, and this was easy to say yes to. So that's what we're saying yes to right now. And I love being in the here and now anyway. So this is what we're doing right here, right now.
What a beautiful share. And thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for taking the time today. For those of you who are listening, I'm having Mark and Lana on this podcast because I view them as retreat experts, because it's one thing to host a retreat. It's a whole other thing to own a retreat center. So you guys have been in business for about 4 years. Can you walk us through what it's like to take the steps to own a retreat center? Like, do you have to view a property? What is the licensing situation from day one to opening day of the retreat center?
Yeah.
After COVID, we went through some changes. We owned fitness centers, boxing gyms, and a yoga studio in Minnesota. And we decided after COVID that it was time to make a change. So we sold all of our businesses, sold our home in Minnesota, and we moved south. When we moved south, Lana had just finished up running a retreat with a friend of hers in Costa Rica. And she said to me, I know what we're going to do in Arizona. We're going to find the right retreat center and open it up and run our own retreats so that we can go deeper with our guests. And I just looked at her and I said, okay, let's do it. And we started on our search, and we had a realtor friend that lived here that was also from Minnesota. He said, I'll find you the perfect place. And he started searching high and low from the north end of town to the south end of town, the east and west. We found a few different properties, and we actually came down and viewed a couple of them. They just weren't the right fit. And then we were at home in Minnesota. We got a call from our realtor friend, and he said, I think I found the perfect place. I'm driving there right now. I'm going to FaceTime you on Facebook live while I walk through the property and tour it and show it to you. So he did that. And by the time he got through the front door into the after the foyer area into the dining room area, Lana was on the computer booking our flights to head south because she could tell already that it was the right place to see. And so we flew down over the 4th of July in 2021, and it was about 115 degrees here, which we don't mind. We love the heat. So we got out of the vehicle at the property. Realtor friends started to talk a little bit about it, and Lana walked into the house. And I walked around the property because I got to scope out the land, and that's just my thing. She's in the house, and Steve, our friend, the landlord, comes walking, or the realtor comes walking out, and he says, "She's in the house and she's crying." And I looked at him, and he goes, "Is that a bad thing or a good thing?" And I said, "Oh, that's a really good thing." So I walked in. She's sitting on the steps with tears in her eyes, and she looks at me and she says, "This is the place." So we knew right then and there that this was Blisstopia Retreats has found a home, and we opened up. We closed and we opened up a few months later. We held our first retreat in October.
And I think with your question about like what it takes to open a retreat venue, it is definitely not for the faint of heart. It's a huge investment. I think Mark and I are entrepreneurs at heart. So even though we do these different modalities, we love opening and starting things in the wellness industry. We already have a couple other things in the fire going like literally right now that we're saying yes to. And so there's some back and forth. So we'll probably talk to you more about that, Britta. But as an entrepreneur, for me personally, I wait for the calling. Like I don't make just a decision. It's not in the brain, it's in my heart, and it's almost even outside of myself. It's my first like real calling was, I'll tell you a little story. It doesn't have anything to do with the venue, but it has to do with listening to your intuition and being quiet enough to hear. But I was at work at a job in HR, and I was in the bathroom, and I was washing my hands, and literally there was a voice there saying, "Oh, you should be around babies and mamas." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And so I started just exploring. And I had no idea what a doula was at the time. And so I discovered that through conversation with my midwife, conversation with other people, like, oh, okay, a doula, I'm going to check this out. And I ended up being a doula for 20 some years and over 400 births. And the calling, I wait for the calling. I don't like search it out and be like, oh, I'm going to do this, or look to other people of what I'm going to do. Like if you're quiet enough in your mind, your heart is going to hear the universe, source, God, whatever you believe in, to bring you to that next place of your dharma, your purpose. And this is where it brought us to this frequency, high frequency land here in Arizona.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because I feel like I am very much in this place on my journey of becoming quiet to listen to what is next. And I had a yoga studio in Portugal, and so many things went wrong outside of the studio and I moved to London, and it wasn't just, I'm going to go do this. It was something that was like very much placed in my dreams and in different signs in the universe. And now I'm in Paris because the same thing happened. And I realized the reason why things on my journey in Portugal weren't working out is that I didn't have time to be quiet. And
Mhm.
now, completely shutting things down and being open to the quiet, I feel like I'm much more on my path now when it comes to teaching yoga, when it comes to running a business in general. And I think this is so important. If you were speaking to someone who was experiencing their intuition for the first time when it comes to maybe they work in the corporate world, but they're very interested in wellness, they're very interested in yoga, how would you teach them to become quiet so that they could listen?
Mhm. Go to the bathroom, wash your hands. No. Really, breath work is amazing to help quiet the mind, especially for active kind of type A personalities that always want to do instead of just be. It's in the being where you hear that intuition and then sitting with it, not analyzing it. Because a lot of people will sit there and analyze, and that's just another way of doing. But just
Mm.
be with the information and still have inquiry and wonder, like my doula situation. Well, I wonder what that looks like to be around pregnant women and babies. There could be a number of things, right? So sit with it and play with the questions around it. And some people can journal, some people love to write things down. But there again, I think it that gets into analyzing and you get into the pros and cons and the research. But the real listening is literally sitting in nature, breathing, just being, meditation. And it's a practice. And you have to keep coming back to it over and over and over again.
Thank you for sharing this. And I ask that you share this because a lot of people, they've never heard of breath work. They don't know what that feels like in their body to have that space to listen. So thank you for sharing that. Mark, you mentioned earlier that you knew that it would be Arizona. For because you were in Minnesota before, like, did you guys search in Arizona? Was it for tax reasons? Was it for spiritual reasons? Like, why did you choose Arizona?
Several reasons for Arizona. First one, and the primary one, was Lana's parents, her mom and dad, are in their early 80s, and we knew at some point we should probably be down here because there's no other family here for support for them as they get older. So we knew we probably should be down here to try to help them out. It was kind of a natural selection for that. But second, uh, we were done with the cold winters of Minnesota. 50 winters in Minnesota, at, you know, 20, 30, 40 below zero at times. That's just not right. So we had had enough for our winters. Um, and and then also just because of what we went through with COVID, we just decided that maybe we need to find a place that's a little different. And we knew that the desert is special. The Sonoran Desert, especially where we are, it's sacred land. It really is. We're on, our location is on really the base of a mountain, a desert mountain, and it's beautiful. And you can feel the energy when you walk into our place, but also when you walk around the property. And stepping into our backyard, you feel like you are in a desert oasis away from everything, even though we're in the city limits. It's just a unique, special place. So all of those things combined are the reasons why we ended up here, and we're very happy and we feel blessed that we found this place.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's really important for people to know, like, why we choose the places we choose or the places choose us. So you got this property. What would you recommend for someone? Like, what are the steps that you take to open a retreat center? What do you legally need to know? What do you spiritually need to know as a keeper of the land? What does that look like for someone who's interested in doing this?
I think spiritually first, I'm going to address that and have Mark address more of the business part. But spiritually, to be able to hold space for people is the number one thing. And if someone doesn't really know what that means, get in the practice, get some experience first behind you before taking on something to that level, because there's a lot of responsibility when you bring people into a space like this of healing. People are vulnerable. People are ready when they say yes to a retreat. And I think not only being able to hold space, but to have experience and life's wisdom, because you never know what is going to happen during that retreat with someone. And for a host, a facilitator, a venue owner, a venue retreat holder of space needs to know how to handle any situation that comes their way. And I think that only comes with experience. You have to have experienced retreats, experience grief, experience many different healing situations. And I think that's key. And then also to have your own practice. It's so
I
important to have your own practice. Go ahead.
When you say to hold space, what would your definition or definitions of holding space be for someone who is either a retreat center owner or a retreat host?
Yeah. Holding space is being open to others' vulnerability, to be able to just sit with someone. Here's an example of holding space. So I taught a restorative class last night, and it was about release. What do you need to release in your body, your mind? And everyone had something different. One person said, I need to release my 17-year-old poor choices. I need to release my discussion with my boss today. All different things. And during the class, one of the students was crying. And afterwards, she was putting the props away and she was still crying. And I looked at her and I just said, I see you and I hear you. I'm right here for you.
It also helps.
And all I said was, do you need a hug? We're not there to save them. We're not there to give their advice, to even know what the situation, why they're crying, because they might not even know, but just to be there and allow whatever expression needs to come out. And that's it. And it's a lot of times for them to walk away and be with that feeling, knowing that they were seen and heard. And that's it. That's, to me, is like one of the most important things about holding space.
Holding
I
space
think this
also, I
is
think it comes with, life experience. Lana doesn't brag about her background much, but I do. So, she's spent over 30 years of her adult life as a trained and educated psychotherapist. So she knows how to help and reach people at a different level that way. She's also a hypnotherapist. She's a Reiki master. She's a yogi for life. All of these things combined are skills and that you acquire and build to where you just can be with people and help people at a different level. So life experience is a big part of it, being able to hold space.
And it's our anniversary, so he's doing a good job today.
happy anniversary. I love this.
Thank you.
I have a real life question for you, because I feel, as someone who has managed and owned yoga studios, that sometimes the people who are in charge are kind of put onto pedestals sometimes as these big gurus or leaders who can't make mistakes or who don't have room to grow. And for me, I make my best mistakes when I'm in leadership roles so that I can learn to be a better space holder. And I'm wondering, from your guys' experience, have you made mistakes as retreat hosts, as retreat center owners? And
A
kind of
lot.
like, you don't have to share anything too personal, but like, what is it like to be in in the wellness industry in a leadership position as someone who also makes mistakes?
Well, humility is and being humble is probably you have to have that, because we've made so many mistakes over the years, over owning different businesses and being in leadership roles. I mean, it would fill a book. I could write a book on all the mistakes that we've made. And some are like, really, we look back and we go, oh my gosh, we did that. We reacted that way. Who were we? But I think most of the time the mistakes came from being in survival mode. Like we were scared and we didn't acknowledge our fear and deal with it in that way. And the fear is what created so many mistakes. And I think we've learned from that.
As we've gotten better with the skills of dealing with issues that come up and mistakes that we've made, it comes back to customer service, and that's what we have to look at always is our guests that come to our retreats, our guests that come to our events, yoga class, whatever it may be, they come first. So we've learned that in many ways the hard way because we didn't always think that thought process because we reacted in the moment. And now I'll speak for myself. As I've gotten older and hopefully a little wiser, I've reflected on some of the things that I've done wrong, and with guests, with customers, and I've tried to grow to where I'm a better person to provide customer service to make them feel special.
Can I share one of your mistakes?
And you can share one of mine. Go for it.
Okay, this is funny. So, I mean, this was years ago, but Mark, when he would reply to someone and he wasn't getting what he needed, right? That's just all it is. He would put the letters in caps, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. I mean, I'm talking the whole email. I'm like, Mark, honey, like that's very aggressive.
I was just trying to get my point across. That's all.
And I'm like, what's the saying? You get more honey with bees or what? Well, you know what I'm talking
Bees
about.
honey.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't ever do that anymore. Like, and it's so
good.
funny. You look back and go, whoa. Now, feel free to share one of my mistakes.
I can't think of anything.
Great answer. Great answer. Mark, I would love for you to talk about the business side of opening a retreat center a bit. Like if someone in the United States or in Arizona, they found the retreat center of their dreams. What is the steps to buy it? What is the steps? Like you can't open it the day that you buy it. Like the day that you plant the seeds is not the day that you eat the fruit. That's like my saying this year. So what do they have to do from a legal standpoint to get it up and running?
That's a good question. I would check with the city that you're in, if there's a city or a county, and find out some of the regulations. Like here in Arizona, it's called a TPT license that you need to apply for, which is basically like a kind of like a Airbnb license, short-term rental, because retreats are they're short-term rentals. So that may be an issue in your city or county location. HOAs, if you're in an area where there's an HOA, I would say you're probably going to have lots of trouble and lots of issues with dealing with that for trying to open up a retreat center with an HOA. So I would avoid that if you're searching for a venue. Ideally, find a space that has few neighbors, and then even approach your neighbors and let them know that you're going to be having people coming and going from your property. So, those are some of the, little intricacies of running a business like this. But it's also, once you find the venue, you find the right places, financing it. If you finance it as a business, it's going to be a commercial property then. If it's a commercial property, you're looking at a minimum of 20% down for finances. That could be, if it's $1 million property, well, you can do the math. So looking at that, if you do buy it as a residential property, which is what we did buy it as a residential property because it is a 2-story villa home with a casita. And then We don't have an association. We don't really have a lot of restrictions where we're at. We're off grid. We have our own private well, septic, solar for electricity, propane. So we're not connected directly with everything. So those are some pluses that we have. If you can go that route, I would suggest it. But there's also good, pluses and minuses that come with that. And then as far as getting the property up and running, you have to get that website up and going right away because you need to announce to the world that you are opening up. And when your grand opening will be, all of that. Your social media pages, your social media channels, all need to be up, activated, and start blasting them everywhere and sharing with the world. And then it comes down to furnishing the property. Furnishing the property is a big step. We have a facility that can accommodate up to 17 guests and 17 beds. So you can imagine just finding 17 beds along with all the other furniture and fixings and fixtures and pictures and all the things that go with filling a 7,000 square foot villa. So depending on the size of your retreat center, those are some of the things to consider. It took us about 6 to 7 weeks to furnish the place. So we had that lag time.
And that's because it was just Mark and I.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we did it all ourselves.
And we're not big shoppers.
So those are some of the front end things, but that's also an expense on top of purchasing the property. You could put in 10, 20, 30, $50,000 more just in furnishings. So the numbers can add up quickly. And then, of course, building out that first retreat. When you build out that first retreat, to announce it to the world that you have a special place to bring people to. Hopefully you have, like Lana said, you've already spent time in the industry, in the world of helping and healing people, or helping people heal themselves. And you've got a following. If you have that following, they're going to be excited for you for opening up that, and they're going to come, at least for the first few retreats. You should have that. And then the business end grows from there. And Britta, this, in the retreat industry, it's become a little saturated over the last couple of years, to where there's a lot of retreat centers. There's a lot of retreat hosts that are hosting in rental properties and Airbnbs, and it's spread the customer base a little thin. So be prepared for that as well.
Thank you for just giving us a rundown of what this visually looks like from, the day you find your retreat center to the day that you open it. I would love to talk about the oversaturation in the retreat industry. What do you think the main differences are, and like the pros and the cons of renting an actual retreat center to host your retreat versus finding some random Airbnb to host a retreat? Like what do you think is the best option for retreat hosts, and what are the pros and cons?
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely a retreat center over Airbnb. And we've done both. We've rented other people's retreat centers, and we've also rented Airbnbs. That the benefit, I think, of is working with a retreat center is that's what they do. I mean, you have the supplies, you have the yoga mats, the straps, the bolsters, the blocks, the blankets. You have support. You often will have a chef on site. You have other support right on site for you. And at an Airbnb, it's you and you. And if you have an assistant, great, but it's you. And a lot of times for an Airbnb, you have to pay everything up front. So with a retreat center, it's usually anywhere from 20% to 50%. And that gives you time to build up your guest list and collect deposits and get started, so that you're not out a lot of funds before the retreat even happens. Other benefits for the retreats, I know Mark's thinking here and wants to chime in.
I have one question about you talked about having support on site and a retreat chef on site. I want to really emphasize to retreat hosts who don't own centers how rare it is to find a retreat center that has the food on site. Can you guys talk a little bit about what you offer when it comes to that? And also, do you need like a food and beverage license to be cooking and serving food to your retreat guests?
It's a great question.
Great question. Yeah, as far as having a licenses for certain things, because we're a 508c1a, we have, it's a nonprofit. It's a private membership association. It's a different type of nonprofit. 501c3s are standard nonprofits. There's a lot of government regulations that go with that. A 508c1a operates as a ministry, so we have a little more autonomy to be able to do things. So as far as food and beverage license goes, for our guests, we do not have to have a license for that. Basically, legally we have waivers, of course, but
And I've been through all the training for safety, health. I mean, our safety, our health, and wellness for our guests are the number one priority. And we're not going to go into it not knowing, the proper care of food and sanitation. So that is in place, even though it's not required for us, if that makes sense. But
and,
most places do, yes.
Absolutely.
and,
Yes.
and
And
feeding
then,
our guests,
mhm.
is it's so important because it is a big part of a retreat. They have to have good nourishment, and we want them to, our goal is for them to experience something that's a little different. So they're gonna have meals that they're probably not used to, compared to standard American fare that they're having on a regular basis. If they're eating out a lot, if they're eating fast food, if they're eating, even trying to eat somewhat clean, well, they're going to come here. They're going to eat clean. They're going to eat clean, nourishing, Ayurvedic prepared food. Lana is an Ayurvedic chef. I'm basically her gopher. I go for this. I go for that.
And that
So
doesn't mean that you're not going to feel satisfied, because in Ayurveda, we land on the buds all six tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, astringent, pungent, so that you feel satisfied. And a lot of times when people are eating, they're looking for something after their meal because they didn't have all of those six tastes to feel satisfied. So I blend all of those six tastes to land on the taste buds so that they have lots of good satisfaction, and also grounding, because they are doing a lot of healing work and that requires grounding food.
yeah, they're not only are they doing healing work, but they're also doing physical movement, whether that's a yoga class. Um, it could be a
Hike.
hike on our mountain. It could be a walk around the labyrinth. It could be a jump in the pool, the hot tub, spend a little time detoxing in our infrared sauna. All of those things require good nourishment so that you have the energy to be able to make it through a full day, because a retreat day could start at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning and go till 8, 9 p.m. Now, are there breaks? Of course, there's breaks. We make sure that there's enough downtime for our guests to be able to reflect and just to have time to just be. But
I have a guest favorite dish is the spinach, artichoke, and quinoa casserole.
Oh, I love that you guys shared about the food, because a lot of times I work with retreat hosts who only want to offer one meal a day for an 8 to 9 hour retreat. And I really try to emphasize to all retreat hosts the importance of feeding people like either 2 meals a day, a big brunch and a dinner, or breakfast, lunch, and dinner with like snacks, teas, waters served throughout the day, because we're doing so many activities. Our bodies need nourishment. What is your opinion on making sure, like you talked a little bit about already, but making sure that we feed our people, because we're leading them through so many experiences and exercises? Do you think that having like 2 to 3 meals a day is like one of the top priorities for hosting a retreat?
Percent.
yes, yeah,
Absolutely. I think you're right, because there are some retreats that you go to and they provide dinner, and you're kind of on your own for breakfast and lunch. And when you're on your own in a place that you don't know, you might not always make healthiest choices because you don't know what all the choices are there. Or you might go without. So yes, that is absolutely a absolute for us,
We have
really.
we have a belief about the retreats as well that once you enter into the retreat itself, we like to keep you in the container and so to speak. So that, it's not like you're trapped here, but it's
You didn't join a
it's
cult.
you didn't join a cult or anything like that. But you enter into the retreat, and the word retreat means to leave, to escape, to remove yourself from the everyday, day to day thing. So if you're coming and going from the retreat center, like to a restaurant, you're still in the outside world and you're still dealing with all of that goes with that, the chitter chatter, the stresses of all the things that cause division and social issues and all that. So we want you to escape that. So once you're here, all everything is included. We make sure of all that. So that yes, 2 or 3 meals a day is what we offer. We do sometimes 2 for a brunch and a dinner.
And we don't let our guests do the dishes.
Yeah.
That we don't want them to be doing their
You're not
normal
working.
kind of
You're not
chore.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that kind of work.
Yeah. Like they are taken care of.
Yeah, so we want them to feel taken care of, almost a little pampered. And it's uncomfortable for people. A lot of times they're like, they see us doing the dishes after a meal and they want to come over and help. And we're like, no, you're here to retreat.
And you're here
To,
just to be. You're
yes.
not here to do.
So
So we're not doing
that might be
chores.
a little different philosophy than some other people that own and host retreat centers or, run retreats. But, because I know there are some retreats that are working retreats. You share, you cook meals and do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just our idea of running a retreat is this way. You come and you experience all of the things that are included in the retreat, and it's not about having to do the day-to-day things that you do at home. You're leaving those behind for that time that you're here.
Love this because there's so many retreat centers that don't include this at all. So if you're a retreat host and you're looking at a venue, no matter where you're at in the world, to rent for your retreat, what I love about Blisstopia Retreats is that there are people on site to cook the meals for you so that you can be holding space with your guests, so that your guests can be present, enjoying the food and not doing the work. It is so hard, number one, just to find retreat centers that offer food on site, and it's really expensive. Like, for example, the minimum deposit for retreat chefs starts at $900. That just includes the chef for the deposit. It does not include the ingredients you're paying for or the actual amount you're paying for. So it's really important, retreat hosts, that when you're looking at retreat centers, ask what if they have a retreat chef on site, how many meals a day they offer, what is the price, are ingredients included, what work is included for you to have this amenity. Like, this is a huge amenity that is just so rare to find in the retreat industry. I would love to move a little further into your retreat center, and I work with you guys, and I just think your retreat center is so special. So can you kind of paint us a visual picture of what it's like to be on retreat, like a day in the life at Blisstopia Retreats as a guest?
Yes, absolutely. Can I just circle back to the meals? I want to let you know too
Yes.
that for the not the agenda, the itineraries, we get the host facilitator itineraries. And for each meal, we try to kind of integrate it into what's going on. So it might be a lighter meal, it might be a more grounding meal, depending on what their sessions are going on. And then also, I do a blessing um, each time and integrate it with what they're doing so that it's all weaved in together. It's not separate. We're not separate. We're weaving everything together in their retreat so that it doesn't feel like piecemealed together. So to your point about or your question about the day in the life, I think it really we start with breath work in the morning, poolside usually, and it's right at
Let's
the
start
base.
start with greeting them when they first arrive.
Oh yeah, greeting them when they arrive. Yes, we're right there. Mark brings their bags up to their room. Again, it's not about doing. We are there to support you. You don't. You carry all this luggage with you when people travel, right? And it's like all you want to do is when you land, when you get to that place, you just want to, and we will take care of the for you to be able to let go and just be and get comfortable. So we'll bring them up to their room. We have 5 different rooms. Sometimes people can do single. We have double rooms, or even up to quad rooms. And really, it's the guest choice. There is a price difference, but we do have all of those options. And we have cucumber water generally, sun tea ready for them to be hydrated after their travels. We do an opening circle of openness and just getting to know one another, no pressure at all. And then we move into I have my opening dinner special, and that is,
One thing about the opening circle, we kind of give a little guideline of things to do while you're here or not to do. And the one thing is we require no talk of social issues that can cause division at any time during the retreat, because you're leaving that behind. You're escaping from that. That is what you're stuck with on social media every day. That's what you're stuck with on the news, with your coworkers and everything else. So we really try to emphasize that this is a place of, safety for one. You should feel safe completely, and a place to just be without having to deal with those things. So we set that tone right away.
What do you think the importance, like I see that as a boundary, and I think this is so important. I teach all retreat hosts this. What do you think, or sorry, why do you think it's needed to be setting tones like this or setting gentle boundaries? Like what is the safety that is created because of this? And did you start doing this from the day you opened Blisstopia Retreats, or is it something that you learned that you needed to do?
well, I needed to put it in place for Mark. First of all, let's be honest. I'm gonna be honest because I needed to share with him that people are not here to talk about all the stuff outside of there. They're here for themselves. And oftentimes the TV, the social media, that's just a distraction. That's a dopamine hit. And it's an
Mhm.
avoidance of being with yourself. It's an avoidance of diving deeper into who you are. It's an avoidance of healing whatever shit needs to be healed. And so I said, This is not what we're doing here. We're not talking about any of that stuff outside of this space.
The main, the
We're
main,
talking about
yeah,
who we are
the
as
main, the main things that
individuals.
we don't talk about: politics, religion, and the social issues that do divide people. So if you just eliminate that during your time and your stay here, conversations become more deep
Yeah.
about
Yep.
what you're dealing with and what you're struggling with and what you may need some support and help with. And if that's the focus, which is what it should be, because that's why you decided on a retreat in the first place. You didn't say, "Well, I want to go to this retreat and I want to convert everybody from this political system
Religion
to
and
this political system, or I want to convert them from this religion to this religion."
and I
That's not what it's about. So
No.
you came for that. You came for the right reasons. So let's stay on that track.
And I think another thing is, like, we get a lot of first-time retreatees, and they don't know what we're doing. So we found out that we needed to show, like, the things that are discussed, and we're not there to control it, but we're there to create the atmosphere and that holding of space. And when we set the tone to first-timers, then they know. They kinda know what the rules are, even though there's no rules.
Thank you for sharing this. So I love that it's part of the opening ceremony, so it's setting the tone of the retreat right away. After you discuss this and you have the opening ceremony, what do you lead your guests into next?
I do a beautiful Persian dinner, traditional kebab dinner, and I have a vegan option too. And then we do typically a yoga nidra that night, and whatever the theme is, the yoga nidra will be themed based on that, whether it's warrior goddess or heal your heart, or just a reset. And then in the mornings,
Morning, we typically start out with some guided breath work. Not real in depth, but enough to activate their system and kind of wake them up a little bit, like a coffee breathing type format, and kind of opens them up a little bit. And if they're coffee drinkers, then they can go and have coffee and tea, um, and a little time to integrate between that time and breakfast. And then we give them a nourishing breakfast that is basically designed to have them, get their day started. And then from there,
we do movement. So we either do a hiking. When it's the cooler months, we do a little later in the hiking. But if it's hot here, we do early morning hike, a sunrise mountain hike. So we get to see the sunrise come up, which is beautiful here. And or a movement of yoga inside or outside. And then we usually do a workshop depending on the theme of the retreat. The workshop will integrate with that. And those are usually deeper dives into the pain bodies of what's happening with that person. I do oftentimes an exploration through hypnosis, and that can bring some things up to the surface. And I like to do that sooner in the retreat so that we know what we're dealing with and what to work with rather than waiting till the end. Let's bring it to the surface sooner than later. And then lunch, integration time in the afternoon, pool or at sauna, take a nap, read a book. We have a plethora of books for people to read. Most of them are like self-help, informational books, yoga books, meditation, that type of thing. But most of the time people will grab a book. And if you're a reader, or maybe they might journal in the afternoon. And then we have an afternoon workshop, and that could be outside. It might be making a smudge stick from our chaparral on the property, or with the brittle bush, making a smudge stick with them, or a blend of essential oil tinctures. And then it's kind of like a little nature exploration. And then we do dinner, and that evening, we might do nothing, or perhaps a gentle yoga, depending on kind of how the day is set up and what the retreat is about. We do have a more intense session with the Blistopian method, and that is transformational breath work, sound healing, cold plunge, and the cacao ceremony. Yeah.
What do
and
you guys think? Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, and on some of our retreats, we may add in the kind of the yin and the yang. So
Yeah.
you get a lot of yoga, you get a lot of meditation and breath work, kind of those deeper meditative type things that you can go a little deeper with. And then for a release, we may add in a boxing class. That's one of my backgrounds. I've been a boxing coach for many, many years, or self-defense, or a combination of boxing, self-defense, little kickboxing, all mixed in. That's where you can see our guests when they attend those classes kind of get a whole new inspiration, um, and also open up a little differently because they've been going deep with Lana on workshops and sessions, and allowing some of their emotions to come to the surface. Well, you go and hit a heavy bag, or you hit some focus mitts with a boxing training. You are experiencing something that's different, especially if you've never done it before. So we throw some of those modalities in as well.
Thank you for bringing this up because it leads into my next question. A lot of times, new retreat hosts will only offer, like, their retreat is literally called the 3-day yoga retreat in at the beach in Florida. And I love that you guys offer so many different modalities. What do you think? Why do you think it's needed to offer more than yoga? Like you have breath work, you have the whole food experience, you have hiking, you have hypnotherapy, and you have yoga, and you have self-defense. What is your opinion on the body and the retreat experience needing all of these things?
I love that question. So I'm a psychotherapist by education and experience and training. And early on, I soon realized that talk therapy wasn't the answer to everything. And that's when I started to delve in different modalities of somatics and healing in that way. And that's where I think one modality is can be helpful. It can be a start, but it might not be for everyone. And we do healing and wellness retreats. It's not just yoga retreats, which is great. I mean, if that's what people want to do is go get their yoga on in yoga asana, that's wonderful and experience a different place. But we go much deeper. We want to dive into supporting that person's evolution with the different modalities. And that's why we offer the many different types of ways of healing.
People who are new to some of these modalities, maybe they've never practiced yoga, they've never heard of breath work. What would you say to the people who are a little fearful or hesitant to go to a retreat because they just don't know what those practices are?
Yeah, as far as the breath work goes, breath work is interesting. I actually have been involved with it in some fashion way back when I started martial arts training in 1980. I started training in Kung Fu originally. So I got into Qigong breathing, which kind of ties in with Kung Fu, Tai Chi. It's movement, breathing with the movement of your body, which ties into yoga. Yoga does a lot of that as well. Pranayama, breath work. Uh, Doing all of that, then getting much more involved with breath work after COVID through more serious training, I realized how your breath can really benefit you by learning how to do deeper modalities or just simpler modalities of breath work. Everything for beginners to try out um, simple breathing patterns. Box breathing is very popular. It's known by most people that practice breath work, and it's a simple calming method. Literally, if you feel stressed or anxious, you do 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of box breathing, and it'll calm your central nervous system down, and you'll literally feel relaxed after doing that, which is a great way to start for beginners. As you progress with breathwork training, you can get much more in depth. When it when you think of breathing and breath work, we are all chronic overbreathers. We breathe 22 to 24,000 breaths a day. 22 to 24,000. That's a lot of breathing. And with that, you only use about 17 to 18% of your lung capacity. So there's a lot more that you can do because you're just breathing short breaths. So when you start to breathe a little deeper, now things can happen. You increase blood flow naturally without raising your heart rate. So because of that, that can increase the healing process if you have injuries, if you have, other illnesses. So increased blood flow is a natural way of healing.
And
So
we
breath
get
work can get very in depth
we get beginners here all the time that have never done a yoga class,
for breath
have
work.
never done breath work,
Yeah.
and we will hold them and not judge them and just be with them because everybody can do breath work, everybody can do yoga. We recently had a gal who had MS, and so she did the yoga in a chair. Okay, you can do everything that everyone else is doing and just do it in a chair. It's okay, right? So,
I love
um,
this.
right? I mean, anyone can. And I do the yoga practices, the asana, the movement practices, so that anyone can do it. But also, if you are more experienced and you like to uh, do some of the more fancy kind of asana, headstand, handstands, you're welcome to do that. There's the practice that we do for yoga is not just about the asana. So it's a much different practice than someone would do in a yoga studio. So like for example, when we do Warrior One in the Warrior Goddess retreat, I will have people start in mountain pose, step forward into Warrior One and yell, "I am strong," step back. "I am powerful," step forward. And then do it soft, do it louder. "I am strong, I am powerful." So that it's not just a yoga class, because you can get that anywhere, right? And those are beautiful for a regular practice. But here on retreat, the yoga, what we think of in the Western culture, is not what people are going to get.
Thank you
It's
so much
yoga,
for
it's
this.
union. Yes.
It is. I started practicing yoga because I have a spinal disability and I can't do crazy back bends. And a lot of people don't know that about me. And it's literally why I practice yoga, is because I wasn't able to move my body because of my spinal disability. And I think it's so important that you mentioned, like, you can go to a retreat and practice yoga in a chair and it's the same thing. You don't have to do the handstands or the kick your face poses. Like, you can come as you are and you guys will provide options for them. And I just think that's so important for retreat hosts to know too. Like, yoga teachers, like, get certifications in many styles of yoga, learn how to teach with accessibility, because that is a way that you could sell out your retreats. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, yes. We welcome anybody. Now, we do have a lot of stairs, so we're not wheelchair accessible, but we are, I mean, we get people up and down the stairs, right? So we've had people with a cane move up and down the stairs. She had cerebral palsy, and she moved through the property fairly easy. And yeah, our next property will be a one level.
I love that you already have a plan for next property. Speaking of your property, and I feel like Mark might be the one to answer this because you're always the one talking about the nature. A lot of times retreats, they're held at beaches or they're held at like these really like luxurious over the top places. And I'm someone who really loves the earth. I feel I am my truest self when I am with the earth. Can you talk a bit about your desert property and just the gifts that the desert gives to you and your guests? And you also mentioned at the beginning of this podcast episode how you are keepers of the land. So I would love to know, like, what does it mean to be a keeper of the land? And also, what can the desert provide to us as guests on your retreat?
Hmm.
Yeah, keeper of the land, and it begins with when you arrive on our property. It's set back off the main road. So even though we are in town and we do have neighbors to the north and to the south and to the west, we don't have any neighbors to the east. To the east is the mountain. So when you come to their property and you arrive, it's literally just a feeling of peace, serenity, quiet, and calming. And it is surrounded by nature. We have wildlife like you wouldn't believe. Everything from coyotes to bobcats, an occasional mountain lion, javelinas, which are wild pigs,
Lots of hummingbirds,
hummingbirds galore, eagles, giant owls,
quail, rabbit,
quail, rabbit, it just it, the- and
lots of them.
probably 40 different species of birds. You feel that right away because it's not like it's a quiet place, but yet it's quiet.
Yeah.
It's the sounds of nature are around you. And then we also have chickens. So you'll hear our roosters cock-a-doodle doing, because as soon as they hear human voices, they start making noise because they want food. They want food 24 hours a day, and they're spoiled rotten. So you'll hear them, and they're pretty cool. They give us very delicious, nourishing eggs for our retreat guests that are, there's no chemicals added to anything that they get. They get fresh fruits and vegetables daily. They're fed very well. So,
Can I,
um,
can I add
I
about clearing the space?
yeah, clear. Go
So
ahead.
yes, after each group, we clear the space thoroughly with sage, Palo Santo, and sometimes other things as well with crystals. And that's about keeping the spirit and the well being of the place. And if you do an Airbnb, I can guarantee you they didn't do that.
They
So,
do not have crystals at Airbnbs.
exactly. So, someone before you, which might have only been 3 hours before you arrived, there might have had a drunk fest there. And
Mm.
we know that alcohol reduces the vibrations of a space. And sure, you can sage it, you can do all that, but this is a continual space where we support the land and healing it continuously, not just once a year. Almost weekly, I do it even if people aren't here. Like right now, it's, 115 for a couple months. And so we don't have a lot of groups coming from out of town. We might have locals once in a while rent the property, but we clear it even now so that the property is
Back
well cared for.
back to the nature of the desert, all of the plants in the desert do have spikes and needles and pins, so you don't wanna grab onto any of those, or step on any of the droppings from them because the spikes can go right through your shoes, but we do have space, for grounding, and one of them is a natural sand and stone labyrinth that you can literally go barefoot in, and we make sure that it's kept up, raked for, anything that might blow across onto it, and it's a beautiful little space that, is created, we did that last year, and that's where you can get that grounding as well as the spiritual aspect of walking the labyrinth. And a couple other grounding stations that we have where you could just sit with nature under a tree, take your shoes off and feel the connection of the earth. So these are important things, wherever you are in the world. But here in the desert, it's definitely something that you want to feel as well.
I think to any hosts or facilitators that might not know why they would want to bring their tribe, their community here, the desert here, the cactus that grow here, they grow in the harshest climate, right? It's dry, it is hot, but the cactus still grow, and they grow amazingly. So that's a symbol of withstanding the harshest things, drought. And a lot of times that's what a person can feel. They can feel like they withstood so much. And then how can you still survive and withstand everything that you've been through? So I think for a group to come here, this is what this land represents is you still can thrive even in the harshest environment.
This is such a beautiful metaphor, and I couldn't agree with this more. I feel that I do my best healing in nature, regardless of the circumstance of the nature, because nature is so cyclical and it teaches us how to navigate each season of life. I would love to conclude this podcast episode with learning how you close a retreat. It's one thing to end a yoga class in Shavasana, but what is the closing experience of this nature? It grounds us, it teaches us to be in our cycles and to be with ourselves in every moment. How do you lead people through the closing, like of a ceremonial retreat, basically?
Mhm. We close with a fire ceremony. So throughout the retreat, depending on the theme, the guests are writing down in their journals different things that they want to expand on, things that they want to get rid of, um, things that they want to leave behind, things that they've evolved into, like a phoenix rising. So the phoenix will be burned to the ground, and that's what they're going to throw in our fire pit. And then rise even stronger, more expanded, higher frequency of what they've been through by the fire ceremony.
What we find with most of our guests, when it's time to leave, they don't want to leave. They want to stay. And we love that because we want them to come back, and many of them do. But we leave them with a final little quote that I give them. I'm part Italian, so I tell them, once you join the family, you can never leave. So you're part of our family now.
I feel like this is very European. I relate to this very much. Do you guys have any other last minute tips or recommendations for retreat hosts, space holders, yoga teachers who want to move into the work of either hosting a retreat or owning a retreat center?
Yes. For retreat hosts and facilitators, my biggest tip is just do it. It a retreat is almost like an individual business. So when you're a business owner, sitting, contemplating, doing all that kind of stuff, then if you're contemplating and sitting with it too long, then it's probably not the right thing for you.
Also, if
Like I wouldn't do it.
if you go into it with the mindset, I'm going to get rich in this business, you're not going into the right business. It shouldn't be about the money. Money. If you do it right, the money will take care of itself. It'll be there, and more importantly, is the guests will get what they want and what they need out of the retreats that you host. So think of them first, and the finances will take care of themselves.
I'm going to add on to what Mark said. If you don't get rich financially, you will get rich in life from the experience of being a space holder and retreat host, because there are so many gifts when it comes to holding space for others. Like, to me, this is the most abundant industry for that alone.
Yes.
Yes,
Agreed.
your health is your greatest wealth.
Yeah.
So, if I wanted to attend one of your retreats in Arizona, how would I find you? Where do I look online for you?
Gosh, pick up the phone, call us. We love talking to people. We
Here's
really
their
do.
phone
I mean,
number.
literally, like when people call us, we get so excited. Like whether you come or not, like we're here to build a relationship. It's not just like because we want to know who you are too before you come, just to see if you're the right fit.
What you see is what you get with us. It's Lana and I. We run all of our retreats that we host ourselves, and then we assist on other retreat hosts' retreats. So
So yeah, reach
yes,
out.
you can find us at www.blisstopiaretreats.com. Blisstopia Retreats, so like utopia, but bliss.
Blisstopia.
Blisstopiaretreats.com with an
And if you
S.
come to a retreat or a host facilitator, I will share the story around that name.
And we're also on every social media channel: Facebook, Instagram,
TikTok, Pinterest.
Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn,
Britta got us onto Pinterest.
This is a true story. You guys are the only retreat hosts I know who are active on every platform, because it's one thing to have an account, but you're active on every platform. And one of the reasons I had Mark and Lana on this podcast is from a business perspective. You guys are on it. Like you said, oh, you can call us. Here's our website as well. Here's every social media platform we're on. And I just want to acknowledge you for the fact that you invest in your business, because hosting a retreat is a business, like you guys mentioned earlier. So really acknowledging the fact that you are putting in the work to make your dream of hosting retreats happen.
Yeah, this is not a part-time business for us. We live, eat, and breathe the retreat business. We live on site. Even during retreat hosts that run their own retreats, we're here. We can come and go without being seen during that, if that's what they choose. If they don't want us to be involved, they can just rent the property. But we're also here available for the what ifs. So this is what we do, and we're very, very responsive by phone, by email, by text, by even Instagram or Facebook messengers.
So thank you for seeing us, Britta.
Yes,
You're so
thank you.
welcome. Thank you for being here on the Yes podcast. And I will have all of their information in the show notes. So when you're ready to attend a retreat in Arizona, you can look up Mark and Lana at Blisstopia Retreats. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you, Britta.
If you are a women-run business and want to be featured as a commercial on the Yes podcast, then send an email to britta@brittamareda.com or check the show notes to get the details. Thank you for listening to the Your Entrepreneurship School podcast. If funding your life abroad sounds like something you want to do, then check out the show notes to find out ways we can work together. If you feel called to leave a review, then you can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. I'll see you on our next episode where we will expand our business bank accounts in brilliance without settling for a life that tames us, all while saying yes to our wildest dreams.